I mean, I tend to approach everything like we are in Earth School and we're just trying to grow while we're here.
Take a playful look with Enfys Book as they roll for crit hits with pagan wordsmiths.
Hi there, and welcome to 4 Quick Cues Book Talk with Enfys. I'm Enfys J. Book, and on this show, I ask pagan authors for 4 quick questions chosen by a roll of the dice. With me today is one of my favorite people in the world, Gwendolyn Reece, whose pronouns are she, her, or they, them, who is the author of the upcoming book from Llewellyn, The Waters of Mnemosyne, Ancient Greek Religion for Modern Pagans. She's a Wiccan high priestess in the Assembly of the Sacred Wheel, who is particularly devoted to Apollon and Athena and serves them in Washington, D.C. They're also a theosophist and teacher with the National Theosophical Society. Gwendolyn, welcome.
I am so excited to be here with you, Enfys. Thank you so much for having me.
People can't see, but I'm doing Kermit flail arms of excitement here. I'm excited too. We have known each other for quite some time. In fact, we were coven mates for a while.
Yeah, that was wonderful. That was wonderful. And I'm so excited that you are now the priestess of FAWS. So that's great. And for those who don't know, I hived from FAWS. So yes.
Yes. You are the high priestess of the DC-based coven, and I am the priestess of the Frederick, Maryland coven. So all within the assembly. So we are assembly mates. Yeah, it was great to see you. We, as I'm recording this, it's the week after Sacred Space Conference in Baltimore, which was a phenomenal conference, and you helped put that on, right?
Yeah, so I'm the president of the board of the Sacred Space Foundation. And of course, everything is a group effort. And I was so excited that you could be one of our teachers. We had a lot of fabulous teachers, which is what makes the conference so great. My only regret for me personally is that I end up doing most of the organizing and don't get to go to many things. But it was lovely to see you there. And of course, not unexpectedly, your classes received rave reviews. So thank you for being with us.
Yay. Oh, absolutely. It was my pleasure. And it's such a wonderful conference. And really, it's, I think, one of the lesser known conferences, not through any fault of anyone. It's just a lot of people don't make it out to Baltimore. But it really is, it's fabulous because it's like an intermediate to advanced level magical conference. Yeah. And the caliber of the speakers is really extremely good. So, you know, whatever workshop you go to, it's going to be high quality.
Yeah, I think the other thing when we made the decision is now been a long time ago to specifically target for intermediate to advanced. The other thing is that even when you have some of the people who teach in many different places, they often teach things with us that they don't teach elsewhere because they know they can walk in and assume that they're not going to be getting a room that has like half beginners in it. So I know that some of our teachers who teach in a lot of different places have said that's one of the things they value about our conference. So we're really trying to fill a niche. It makes it a more narrow niche than might be elsewhere, but I think we fulfill a good purpose, I think.
Yeah, definitely check that out for next year, folks. It's at the end of March and should be a really, really good conference. So have you ever been interviewed by a D20 before?
I never have, and I'm excited to start now.
Yay! What would you like to name our D20 for the purposes of this interview?
The Sparkly Lady Rose.
The Sparkly Lady Rose. I love it. And I showed Gwendolyn the dice before this, and it is my new Trans Pride dice. It's all extremely sparkly and clear and has blue, pink, and white stripes, and it's lovely. So the Sparkly Lady Rose, I love it.
Yes, you showed her to me with the or them to me with the pink aimed at me, so that's what I was looking at. That's so cool.
Yeah,
but it's actually rainbow. It's actually rainbow.
Kind of, yeah. It's a blue. Actually, it's got a little bit of purpley depending on the light, but yeah, it's Trans Pride colors. So perfect. Excellent. All right, so we're gonna ask the first question of the Sparkly Lady Rose, which is about spirituality. Get number 12. What advice? Oh, you could go on for a while with this one, I think. What advice would you give to an adult starting along a pagan, polytheist, etc. spiritual path?
Oh, I think the first one is really just to be open and follow kind of where your heart is leading you. I think that so much of what we have to do in this kind of path, especially, well, really whenever we enter it, is unmake so much of our socialization that tells us not to trust ourselves. And I think I would give advice to people that would say, accept some of these things as preliminary hypotheses, that maybe the spirits are real, that maybe what you're experiencing is real and true, and go into it with that kind of sense of openness and wonder, and just allow yourself a goodly amount of time, like maybe a year and a day, to gather experiences and then look at analysis. So kind of trying to pull those things apart and just say, except as a preliminary hypothesis that maybe all this stuff is real. And then allow yourself to experience it, allow yourself to gather information, knowing that you're going to go back and assess it later. And then my suspicion is you will have enough evidence that will help you be open. But so I think that's part of it. And that really does have to do, I think, with our socialization, which tells us to be critical thinkers, which we should be, but it can become something that can get in the way in the beginning, which, you always want to have some critical thinking. I'm not saying like, oh, I had a vision that I could go eat this thing that you have no idea about. So you always have, common sense, but you're also kind of trying to create that openness, especially when you're dealing with, spirits and psychic experiences and all of these different things. In the beginning, I think we tend to default more towards suspicion about ourselves and thinking, is this wish fulfillment? Is this self-aggrandizement? And know then that you're going to have a scheduled time, which you're going to go back and you're going to do some assessment, but you're going to allow yourself to have those experiences first, I think. Yeah, I think that would be my first main thing.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it also applies toward the direction you're heading with this path, because some people are like, well, I have to follow this specific sort of direction. And maybe that's not right for everybody. So have some open-mindedness and realize just because you've joined a group doesn't mean that group is where you need to be forever. Sometimes, there's another group that fits your needs better. You're in an assessment period to see what it is you need. Hopefully you're with a group that doesn't require like initiation before you can do anything. Hopefully there are classes and things you can attend to kind of get the vibe of a place and the direction, but don't be afraid to change course, I think, is the other piece I would give.
Absolutely. And kind of approaching things from this perspective, especially in the beginning, approaching it as play to a certain extent. Play is actually quite sacred. And that's something that we tend to lose. And, we get so mired down in all of just the business of life and allowing that openness. And as you said, there are things that can be wonderful and not for you. And that's okay. That's also growth. It's also learning. I mean, I tend to approach everything like we are in Earth school and we're just trying to grow while we're here. And sometimes that's learning what doesn't work for us, but also that means maybe it does work for someone else. So maybe not having like hard judgment about it, but recognizing it's not for you and seeking something that is. And that's cool. Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Well, the sparkly Lady Rose, what is our second question, which is about writing? Number 15. Oh, this is a great question as I know you've always been a writer, but who or what made you want to be a writer?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. And I'm not sure that I actually know the answer to it. I can tell you that I am incredibly, incredibly privileged, lucky, grateful to the fact that my father's the one who taught me how to write. So my father is an academic, but he is also an amazing editor, a great teacher, and is just incredibly kind and knew how to handle my ego when I was little. And so I would write these things and then he would sit down and he would explain all the grammar and he would always be like, I think your ideas are really good. I think they're really interesting, but this part isn't coming across as clearly as I think it could. Tell me about it. Tell me more. And I would talk to him and then he'd be like, that one that you just said, put that here. And so I think that I found that it was a natural place for me to have some creativity that would come through. And I started really just enjoying it. And I also think if I had not had such a gentle, kind coach who knew how to deal with me, and like sandwich everything in there when I was in my very vulnerable learning how to write phase, that I would not maybe have gone down that path and not seen it as a place where, this really kind of the idea of uncovering and discovering, really discovering your own voice. And that was something he was just so good at helping me with. And then my mother was also very, encouraging as well. And my mother has a lot of creativity, but I also, the other thing that I don't know what I'm going to do when he can no longer edit some things for me. He didn't actually edit this book. It's about the only thing I've ever written that's big that he's not been my editor. But I have gotten within academics, because I also do academic writing, I have gotten some things published with no changes. And the only reason that was remotely possible is because it already made it through St. Dad. The grand editor that is my dad, which we sometimes call him St. Dad because he has the patience of a saint. So
Oh, that's wonderful. I love that you had that relationship and that you had such gentle early encouragement with that. I think too many people get dissuaded in artistic endeavors when it's not perfect right away or someone says the wrong thing about it. And they're like, well, I'm just terrible at this forever. And so I'm glad you had that gentle coaching, because I'm so glad you are a writer in the world. You're an excellent writer. And I'm really so thrilled for your book to finally come out. I've been waiting for a book from you for a long time because you're such an amazing writer and have so many cool things to say about Greece, which we will talk about more probably toward the end.
Yeah. Well, and I also just want to take a second and thank you. You're one of the people who was really encouraging me to keep going and to, keep trying to get things published, because my challenge had been that, my writing was considered too academic. And so, and you were one of the ones that's like, no, you have to keep trying. Have you tried Llewellyn? So I want to thank you for all of your encouragement.
It was definitely my pleasure, and I'm so thrilled to see this book out in the world. So speaking of writing, let's talk about not writing.
Okay.
The Glitter Lady Rose. The next question is the not writing specific professional questions. What is the biggest challenge of being in pagan leadership or a pagan of note?
So I don't know if I really qualify as a pagan of note yet, at any rate, because the book isn't out. Well, maybe I do within the sacred space community.
You run sacred space, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think, to me, it is trying to figure out how best to be of service in ways that are effective and don't burn you out. I think there's this kind of interesting thing where, and part of that means being strategic about how you spend your energy and where you can make a difference, because there's an awful lot of things that I would love to do. I mean, I tend to pile up my to-do list way too high, and I know that about myself. And so trying to make sure, I know it's
I'm just pointing at myself like,
yeah. And indeed, you also are one of the ones who does this. And I think it's a lot of people who end up in leadership is because they're so dedicated to service. And that's great. And at the same time, I wearing the scholar hat, I did some survey work on pagan leaders and burnout, and it's a huge, huge, huge problem. It's a huge problem. And of course, that's because most of us also have day jobs. So trying to figure out where can I have the most impact and spend the energy in a way that will be important, that aligns with the gifts that I have to bring, but also aligns with where I have situational power, so I don't dissipate all of my energy and make no impact, and also not take myself down to the point where I have nothing left to give. So that's my true answer, I guess, as I'm trying to think through it, is, trying to figure out how to discern how to make impact without burning myself out.
Yeah, one of the things you said to me as I was approaching my third degree and becoming clergy that I'll never forget is that the world is a yawning chasm of need, or something to that effect. Like, there is no end to the needs in the world. You cannot address them all. You can't even address most of it. Where are you going to put your energy to meeting the needs that you are capable of doing without giving so much of yourself that there's nothing left. And I think about that all the time. And it was a really important thing for me to hear at that phase of my development. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I call it the gaping maw of need.
There it is. Yes.
Yeah. The gaping maw of need, because I'm always looking for where the three circles intersect. There's the gaping maw of need, which if you spend your time looking into it, that's just it's too much. And then there's like, where are your talents and abilities? And then that third one, which I get to thank my university president, Sylvia Burwell, for giving this one to me, which is, where is your situational power? And it's where those three things line up that you will actually make an impact.
That is really good advice. Yeah. Yeah. Trying to figure that out, because it's so easy to like throw yourself in so many different directions and then just come away with, what have I accomplished? So, yeah. All right. Well, it's time for the fourth question, which is our random encounter question.
Random encounter question.
Awesome.
And this is where I pair the Sparkly Lady Rose with a four-sided friend, and we have a random encounter table of 80 possibilities for this question. So let's see what they want to ask you today. Oh, 2 and 2. What do you do to relieve stress?
Oh, I wish I had a better answer for that. Oh, that is a really tough one for me. My old traditional answer is that I would go for very, very long walks. And that worked for a really long time until I ended up with some mobility challenges. And I do knit. I talk to people, but nothing has ever really replaced when I would just be able to go out and wander for like an hour. And, I have some difficulty doing that right now. So I'm going to say at the moment, I am not your poster child for good stress relief. I wish I was. I don't know if you want to try another one or not, but that's where I am.
No, I think that's a good, honest answer, and one people need to hear. Sometimes you find something that works and then it's no longer possible. So what do you do? We're in that liminal space of figuring out what the next best thing is for you to do.
Yeah.
And, I appreciate the emotional vulnerability of that answer. So I'm good with it.
Okay. Yeah. So working on it. Hopefully, if you ask me in another year, I'll have either I will have healed enough to be able to walk for an hour again with no problem, or I will have found a good replacement.
Hopefully so. Well, Gwendolyn, it has been such a delight having you on the show. I would love it if you could tell our audience about whatever you've got coming up or whatever you're excited about. I'd love to hear more about the book you've got coming out, and also tell us where people can find you online.
Yeah, so the book, The Waters of Mnemosyne, is going to be out on December 8th. It is available for pre-order now. I'm really excited about it. So this is a book I've been working on for 10 years. And my goal in this book was to give people in a single volume who are modern pagans. I'm not a reconstructionist, but I do have strong relationships with most of the Hellenic theoi, deeply immersed in that. My practice is largely Hellenic focused. And I wanted to give people in a single book everything that they would need to at least start having a good practice. So it has a lot of exercises in it. It's got a lot of path workings in which I take people to places that are real on the inner planes to have direct encounters with many of the great ones. But I also give, ideas about like, this is how I would recommend that people go about building those kinds of relationships. Household practice, healing, there's a chapter on philosophy, there's all sorts of stuff. So I tried to get everything anyone would need to at least start a good practice and be able to build from there into a single volume. And I hope that it serves the theoi, and I hope that it serves the spirits of anyone who reads it. So I have a website. It is Gwendolyn Reece, REECE.net is where I am. And that's probably the best place to find upcoming information. And I will be leading another tour to Greece, but I think it may already be almost full up. So that's in summer 2025, which we had the fun of going to Greece together. That was so fun. So that was a number of years ago.
Amazing. Yeah, 2015. It's almost 10 years ago.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Wow. Time is
Time
flying.
flies. Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much, Gwendolyn. I'm super psyched for the book. I hope everyone goes out and pre-orders it because you are my go-to expert on all things Hellenic. And I think it's going to be a wonderful. I've gotten to read a little bit of it. And of course, your personality shines through, which I think people will find very, very helpful and very charming.
Oh,
So,
thank you.
yeah, I hope people get to run, don't walk, pick that one up. So, thanks to everyone listening to my weird, nerdy little dice based interview show. Coming up, we have Jamie Wagoner is going to be our next guest on the show, who wrote, coincidentally, a great book on Hades. So, we've got a Hellenic theme for like 2 different episodes back to back. If you enjoyed this episode of 4 Quick Cues Book Talk with Enfys, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review on your podcast app of choice. Check out more content from me, Enfys, at majorarqueerna.com. That's MAJORARQUEERNA.com. Whatever time it is where you are, I hope you have a fantastic day, and may the dice of fate roll well for you.
Thanks for listening to 4 Quick Cues.